Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of art. It's the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, coming to you from the 40 West Arts District here in Lakewood, Colorado. And joining me from his podcast studio in Rapid City, South Dakota, my partner and friend, you know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, Wes Brown.
Todd, how you doing, my friend? Oh my God, here we are again. Technology is kicking your butt this week, I take it. And, you know, I'm always like tuned into AI and what the hell's going on there. It's scary.
You are Mr. AI, Wes AI Brown. That's your new nickname, AI.
AI. All right, I'll take it.
Yeah, I have been getting my ass kicked this week by technology and the universe. It just keeps on, serving me up shit sandwiches, and I have to keep eating them. But, it's just the way it works sometimes. But I have something to share with you.
Oh, I'm excited.
Are you? Well, yes. Come on. I'm excited.
I'm excited.
That's what I get.
That's what you get, buddy. Let's do it.
So 2026, guess what I'm doing?
2026.
Yeah. Guess what I'm going to go do and where I'm going?
Somewhere fun.
It's going to be a pilgrimage.
No, are you going to Spain?
No, I'm not going to Spain.
You're not
I'd love to go to Spain.
El Camino walk or whatever.
For what? For the money that I'm probably going to end up spending, I probably should have gone to Spain.
What kind of pilgrimage you on? I need to know.
Okay, so I pulled the trigger. I'm going to make a pilgrimage September 19th to Cleveland, Ohio. Ooh. What am I doing in Cleveland, Ohio on September 19th?
Well, I would assume probably the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but
I'm going to go see Rush.
Oh, no way. Are you?
Yeah.
You bastard.
On their last, as of right now, the last tour date before they head to Mexico. So Zane, when I told him that Rush was going to actually tour again, and they had this new drummer, he's like, we're going. And I'm like, I didn't really take him seriously, but he was adamant that we were going. So I pulled the trigger on 2 tickets to Cleveland, Ohio to see Rush.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You don't even want to know what those tickets are. When we saw them on their R40, their last tour with Neil Peart, those were expensive tickets, the most expensive tickets I'd ever paid for. And
Right. In fact, I almost didn't want to go because I know so
you were
expensive.
joking. I almost reached out to you and I'm like, he is not going to want to do this.
I wouldn't be able to do it. It wouldn't be that I wouldn't want to because I looked at Dallas.
Did you?
Yeah, because there's cheap flights going to Dallas, so I could go to Dallas. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do I get to know?
I'll tell you later.
Oh, okay, you tell us.
Like I said, I could have gotten
left out of this information.
We can talk about it after we're done recording. Just remind us.
It's about 3 times the cost of what we paid.
No way.
Yeah.
Holy buckets.
But imagine, because we had great seats for the R40 tour, right?
Yep.
So imagine, and I've never been to this Rocket Arena, I think that's what it's called, in Cleveland, but exactly the opposite section of where we sat, but 12 rows down.
Closer?
Yeah, closer.
So you'd be on the Geddy Lee side.
I'll be on the Getty side. Yep.
That's right.
Anyway.
Well, that should be exciting.
Yeah, that was the highlight of my week right there.
What's weird is I never heard of that drummer before, and I guess she's just she toured with Jeff Beck, you had told me.
And I saw some of the video footage, YouTube footage of her playing with Jeff Beck, and she's pretty amazing. And obviously, if you're playing with Jeff Beck, you're no slouch. So
right, exactly.
Yeah, I think they weren't looking to get somebody that was. There's plenty of drummers that could have emulated Neil, but I think she's a good fit. I think they want to have a different take on some of the songs. So
right, they probably want her to bring her own style into it. So that'll be great. No, that's fantastic, dude. When is the concert in Cleveland?
September 19th of next year.
Wow. Okay. Very good.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, you ready to talk some art?
Let's talk some art. I'm excited.
All right. Before we get to that, we would just want to thank you for listening in Remember, you can always find out what we're up to via our social media on Instagram at Tenant Podcast and our Tenant Podcast Facebook page. And then, of course, our website, tenantpodcast.com. This week, we're headed to the great state of South Dakota, Wes's home state, to talk with a phenomenal artist that currently has an exhibition at the Dahl Arts Center entitled Flower and Flame. You can follow her on Instagram at Deborah Mitchell Artist, and you can check out her stunning work on her website, deborahmitchellartist.com. Deborah, nice to see you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I really enjoyed listening to you two banter. You clearly are good friends. been, to, been together through thick and thin, right?
Yes, we have.
We have. We are brothers from another mother.
Yep.
We have said this many a time. We love each other like brothers. We also fight like brothers. So we have.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
We have hugged it out many times.
In the driveway of Todd's house, actually.
Yeah. I want to kick this off by asking you to talk about what kind of work you do and the mediums that you work in.
Well, I do a lot of different things. And this exhibit that's at the Dahl is the most diverse. So you wouldn't say it's something that I usually do or normally do because I have an MFA in printmaking, and the largest span of, my work, the biggest part of my body of work has been printmaking. I kind of developed this way to work on location when I was getting my MFA at Utah State University. And I would take my plate out into the field and paint on the plate and bring it back to the studio and run it through the press. And it almost looked like sepia photographs, because I was really interested in light and how the light was in an atmosphere and in an environment. And luckily, the woman that was one of the people on my graduate committee also liked the same kind of moody kind of places. So we would go to bars and put paint on our plates or do whatever, and then take them back to the studio. So that's what I started out as doing. Oh, and then also I was a graduate assistant in paper conservation at the Met in New York City one summer, like summer of 1989. And I would do the same thing there. So I would go in the subways in Central Park, and there's some of those pieces that are on my website, and take them back to the studio and print them there. And then I got just kind of tired of doing things that were so realistic, and I started playing around with color. So that's probably the majority of my work now, is like layers of color. And the way that in monotype, when I teach monotype, I tell people that it's kind of like when you're writing on a computer. You can write and move things around and do things that make more sense, or add more stuff somewhere else, and then you print it. And it's like that on your monotype slate, because you can add more ink, make it thicker, texture, things like that. And Wes, I think that's what I was demonstrating that time that you came into the studio, the Gallery 613 in Rapid City.
Yeah.
But since then, and subsequently, I've been doing things that are more layered. And a lot of the things that I have done over the last 15, 20 years have been based upon inspiration from travels. And I was teaching at the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, teaching art history and drawing, and also running the Apex Gallery. So I was really lucky to be able to take the summer and travel, because I wanted to see the things that I was teaching. So I went to Turkey, I went to Istanbul, I went to Greece, I went to Spain, all these different places, and was inspired by my travels there. So there's those series on my website as well. So that's what I had been doing, and retired in 2018 after 19 years of teaching at the School of Mines. And I was really excited to be able to work in my studio, which at the time was a one-car garage, only thing on my lot that was part of the historic district, because my house is all just scrambled together with different add-ons and stuff. And I used to think, dang, it is so small and it's fallen apart. I will never be able to afford to rebuild it with according to what the, strictures are through the Historical Society. And lo and behold, somebody torched it. And that was pretty hard because I had really built up a lot of hope that that's what I would be doing when I retired, is working in my studio. And so I retired in 2018, and this was 2020. So I had been, doing some traveling and getting ready to do teaching and stuff in my backyard and in my studio, which is quite small. And the day before a big storm, it was December 5th. And you know how it is in the hills, Wes, it can be beautiful. And then you go, oh, there's a hint of something changing. And there was on the weather too, that it was going to start getting cold. So I took everything out of my studio, swept it out, rolled my press back in, and folded up a carpet that was there. And I rolled my motorcycle into there. And I shut the whole thing down, and I put styrofoam against the doors and blankets. And it was just going to be so cozy and toasty. And next day, I was going to start my Christmas cards. I was very excited about that because it had been years since I'd been able to do like a yearly card. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I thought a bomb had gone off, and I jumped out of my bed and went to the back door, and there was flames 30 feet in the air. And the noise was the motorcycle gas tank exploding.
Oh, sure.
So that changed everything. Everything.
So this was set fire by some guy, some arsonist that had not only burned your studio, but some other places as well. Is that correct?
Yes. Burned another garage that belonged to this man that owns Acme Bikes in Rapid City, Tim Rangage. I don't know what the value is that, of the bikes that he lost, but he lost his garage as well. And then this guy would torch trash cans and dumpsters and things like that. And the Mount Rushmore, what is it? Boyd's Liquor, he did, trash fire. But when I was talking to the fire marshal, I was standing out where it had been, like this kind of a concrete apron that went from the building to the alley. He said, I just don't get how this happened, how it was so hot and where it started. And I looked down, and I was standing on this 3-inch little ash pile with a bar going through it. And he had just the moment before, I'm just putting in that information, that the guy's modus operandi is he would take trash cans, put them against the building, put in an accelerant, torch it, and step back and just enjoy the show. So I was standing on this little teeny thing of burnt plastic. It didn't even look like plastic. It had been so hot. And the reason it was so hot is because the foam insulation that I put on the inside of the door and the gas tank, and it just went boom. It was like,
wow.
It was spectacular.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was very crazy.
How long did it take for them to catch him?
It was a while. I'm trying to think, maybe 3-4 months, somewhere in there.
So we're jumping into this whole story of this arsonist that burned down your studio. What was your feeling in that moment when you realized that everything was completely gone, that you had not moved out of your studio?
It was very difficult. It was really hard. And I got a little hyper, and I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap it in plastic and go in with that respirator and chainsaw, and I'm just going to finish the job. I was just it was the whole gamut. At the end of that day, I went outside, and there was a charred wall on my left, and I was in the alley, and then there's another person's house on the other side. And there's a lineup of books, and they were still kind of smoldering. And I was looking to the west, and the sun was going down, and it started to snow, big white flakes, and there was big black ash coming up from my library, my art library, art history, catalogs, instructional videos, recipes for, mixing, Renaissance blazes. I mean, it was just everything was gone. And I just remember just standing there looking at the sun fading in one of those really gray early winter days and everything swirling around me. And I was numb for a long time. I was kind of like a wounded animal, is what it felt like. A long time.
Yeah.
So the whole range of emotions, you said that you got a little hyper. Was that anger that you were feeling when you're like, I'm just going to finish this job. I'm going to take a chainsaw and just go out there and
No, it was inspiration. I was like,
inspiration.
yeah, I was like, maybe there was some anger, but I mean, I had no place to put it because nobody, they didn't know who it was. So here's another aside. I had painted a very large Biden banner because they had run out of the big billboard size, and I put it on the front of my porch. And not that long after that was before the election, but there was a group of people we would get together and do we called it the Fall Color Studio Tour. And we would open our studio so people could go like from studio to studio. But because it was the pandemic, I offered my backyard because it was totally closed in, lots of room. They could hang their work wherever, and we would allow people so we wouldn't be in an enclosed space. It would be outdoors, and we required people to come into this art exhibit, with food and music and everything, and they had to have masks. And I think the guy that did that came and he was turned away because he was, I'm not going to wear a mask. And then where I live is right across from, I think it's Title VI housing. So a lot of vets are there. And they have, at that time, there was a couple of guys that have their wheelchairs with, Trump flags on them, things like that. And, this is not fact. This is just, I'm kind of intuitive that way. And it was like, oh, well, but nothing I could prove. And that's who the guy was, the guy who would come to my back and was refused because he would.
Wow. I can't even imagine how devastating. Well, I can to a certain extent because I had my own issue in my studio last year, but nothing to the point of losing everything from all your materials to your press was in there and all these art books and stuff. And I just really would have a hard time wrapping my head around that. I can only imagine the emotions that you were going through and feeling and how not only devastating, but how it would just kind of just paralyze you, I imagine.
Yeah, paralysis was definitely the word of the day back then. It was like I stared a lot, just stared into space. I had some flat files in my house because when it was such a small studio, I didn't have everything out there, but I did lose a crated exhibit. I lost I lost a lot of family heirlooms and photographs, things like that, and of course all the books. Anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, speaking of family heirlooms, I'm going to rewind real quick. So rewind with me, and I'm going to go back to something happier. And I want you to tell us, you reside in Rapid City, but I want to ask you where you're from, where you grew up.
I grew up in Melrose, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston, and big Victorian house. My dad commuted into Boston. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and it was pretty magical. And I could walk down my hill and get on the train and be in Boston. And I would go to Boston on a regular basis. I don't know how young I was when I first started going on my own, but I'd go into the Boston Museum of Art. And as it happens, the family across the street were best friends of the parents were all best friends. And he happened to be head of printmaking at the museum school in Boston. And he gave my mother broken litho stones that were like part of our walkway in her garden. And I go in there, and the very first printmaking class was a lino cut class when I was probably 10 or something at the museum in Boston. And my mother was she was artistic. She was going to be a fashion retailer. And then my dad, he made stuff. He did all kinds of stuff. He wasn't afraid to like do building and, like replace it was an old Victorian house, so we had a lot of work to do. So he replaced like the risers on the stairs and things like that. So I kind of grew up with a can-do attitude. And, sometimes that's dangerous if you get in over your head. When I was 13, my father died of cancer. And within 2 years after that, my siblings all had, I was the youngest. So they all blew the nest. My oldest sister got married. My next oldest sister moved to New York City. Then my brother got married. And then my other brother went into Army or Vietnam and went AWOL. I mean, it was it was intense. And it's weird because memories from that came up when I was creating the work for Flower and Flame. And part of it is because some of the things that I unearthed emotionally and, physically were things from that era. So like there's a piece, you can refer to that, the murmuring, which is the rug that I had folded up, put underneath the press and rolled it back in. It was burned like probably from the top down, like a third or a quarter away from the bottom. It was this huge loss. And when I was watching the video, because I took a video, everybody does these days, when the fire was raging. So I hadn't put this easel back into the building. And I was looking out there and it's like the fire was there and it looked like there was a bird on top of the easel. And that's impossible. That was in the video. And I looked later and what it was the gallery clip. It was the paint clip that would keep the canvas attached to the easel. But at that point, I just like, boom, that's this piece here. The murmuring is what came out of that. So it's a sky with a bunch of starlings, or you can't even really tell what they are. And then the bottom was, I felted that. And then there's all kinds of like jewels, and not really jewels per se, but more like Afghan stuff and, amber kind of beads, things that are more muted for that cultural style of weaving.
I love this piece.
I do too. This is great.
It was definitely one of the ones that I wanted to talk about, so I'm glad you mentioned it.
Yeah. And that rug had been in my family for years. And then I'm just realizing something in talking about how I had embellished it. We used to go to this place in New Hampshire, and it was a cottage that belonged to, some friends of our family. And in one of the bedrooms, I opened the drawer one time, and in that drawer, it was like a treasure chest. It was these necklaces that were amber and, like that kind of, it isn't sterling, but it's kind of silver, and it's never ever really shiny, but it just spoke of somewhere foreign to me, somewhere exotic. And that's where my travels have been, to that area, the Mediterranean area, where I first saw the accoutrement that came from there.
That's so interesting. So this experience that you had, what made you open that drawer?
It was so long ago. I was a kid. I was probably just being a nosy brat and looking around, because we used to go to this cottage all the time. It was in the woods in New Hampshire, one of those old, they're in their family for, from the 1700s or something. And it was just kind of like I was a kid and I looked in there and was like, whoa, what is that? And I had it in my head all the time, since then. It was hidden, it was buried down, and it came out just tonight.
Oh, that's funny.
That's so interesting. For people that are listening, if you want to go to Deborah's website and go under the portfolio tab to Flower and Flame, you can see this piece, The Murmuring. It's exquisite. And definitely, I'd love to see this in person. So I'm jealous that Wes got to see this exhibit.
Yeah.
Well, you are in the gallery district in Denver, and I'm thinking I need to take a trip down there at some point. This show is going to travel to Augustana and Sioux Falls, and then after that, I have to do something with this stuff. So we'll
Right
see.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you should definitely see if there'd be some interest in Denver. I'm sure there would be, and
Yeah.
it'd be cool to have it here. Um,
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
I wanted to make a point that it's 9 feet tall. So, like the first place I showed it was at BH, Black Hills State, and their ceilings were really low. So I had to kind of drape it into the floor. And I found some sticks that I burned and put beeswax on to kind of give it a fence around the bottom so people couldn't step on it.
Yeah, I remember I seen that exhibit as well. And I think that's the first time I seen this exhibit was at Black Hill State. And
Okay, you saw it before
yeah,
that.
yeah, I walked through because I go up to Spearfish every couple weeks to do sales,
Uh-huh.
and BH is one of mine, and my alma mater. So I walk
Yeah.
through that little gallery all the time, and I saw your stuff there. Yeah, it was really cool. And then the display you have at the Dahl they did a great job curating that space. So it was just wonderful, and it's a nice big space, so you can really kind of walk around, and it was just a great show. So and it's still up till November. So
Yes, 15th.
yeah.
Up for it was like 2 months, which I was really grateful for because oftentimes, they don't give you that kind of time.
Right.
And it took me so long, like as you probably noticed, from BH to here, I did it's not like I made a lot of new pieces, but the ones that I made were very time consuming.
Yeah, and there was some stuff at the Dahl that I didn't see at BH. Yeah.
That's because I made new work. I knew
right.
Then I'm going to have to make more to fill I actually should go to Augustine and scope out the size of that gallery because I probably need to fill even more space.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of artifacts and stuff from the fire to cull from to make new work?
Oh yeah, I have a whole list of things that I still would like to do. And the things that I added this time were bigger. So because I knew that I had to, not because, but which was fortunate because I knew I had to fill this space. But I have some ideas. Like I have this roll of paper, and I think it was from a letterpress studio because it's kind of wax paper and it almost looks like parchment and it's burned on some places, but it's a roll. I'm thinking I might want to wait till it snows, place that paper in the snow because it won't disintegrate because it's waxy, and then take branches like bare burning branches covered with beeswax and have them on fire and then drop them onto this paper and see if I can get like a different kind of weird effect by crisscrossing. I mean, so in essence, like turning the table on the fire instead of the fire just giving me something, I'm going to make the fire do something for me.
I love that thought.
Better not boast about that. Just the seed of an idea. We'll see what happens.
So all your siblings flew the coop, and you were the only one at home for how many years before you decided to?
Well, now that you ask, yeah, it was okay. So during that time, I hung around with a rough group of other young girls, and I would be the one that wrote the get out of 5 lunches. The high school was so large that lunch had to take an hour and a half, and there was 5 lunches.
Wow.
So if you were in third lunch, then you met up with your third lunch friends. And sometimes if somebody had first lunch, you didn't get to see them for, I don't even know. I don't even know how they did it, but I would make I'd write out the notes so they could take to their teacher and say that Beverly needs to be out on all 5 lunches today. And we'd go out and we'd go into Boston and we'd go to Boston Common and stuff. I forgot about that.
So when you say rough girls, like you don't strike me. I mean, I know you ride a motorcycle and you've traveled quite a bit, but you don't strike me as like the rough type.
No. Oh, my mother was mortified, absolutely mortified, because she was a sorority girl and she, that's nothing that interests me at all. And So I should back up. My grandfather was a Baptist minister in Wellesley, Massachusetts, and he was the secretary for the New England Baptist Association. And he and my grandmother would travel all through New England, proselytizing, and he'd preach, and she would get with the church woman. So that's the background that I have. But there's also a part of me that is rebellious.
Yeah.
The best way to put it.
And where does that come from? I mean, you're the youngest, and obviously, by the time of five kids, so by the time they get to you, you pretty much get free reign, right? Or was it pretty strict?
No, it wasn't strict. I think that my mother was overwhelmed. She actually was depressed, and slept a lot. So my sisters raised me, and I live to regret it. Or they live to regret it. I'm not sure which, but boy, it's tough going with them. Unfortunately, I lost my oldest sister 3 years ago, and then I lost my younger of the two brothers the same summer. But yeah, so they all left, and it was me and my mother, and she was depressed, and I'd come home from, going out with Rosie, Diane, and can't remember the other friend. And we'd go and take the train into Boston, and we enjoyed ourselves. We'd go to Boston Tea Party and listen to music there, Jeff Beck, The Who, in that era. And had a great time, and we were way too young to be doing that. Anyway, she got remarried to this man who also went to the same church. He lost his wife. My mom lost my dad, and he wanted to retire to the coast of Maine. So they moved out of this great big, everybody had to move, and me and my brother, and he was so mean to me. He drilled the window shut so I couldn't get in, and took if I didn't, obey. And he was the wildest one of us. Go figure. Anyway, so I think I got sidetracked. What was the original question?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, like where you headed from there. So it sounded like everybody kind of flew the coop and you kind of had to figure out your own thing. And I know that at some point you made your way to the Pacific Northwest. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was working on the coast of Maine, and some people came in that were broken down. They were hippies from Idaho, but she was actually from Massachusetts, and they came in looking for work. And after they left, the other waitress said, "She was from Idaho." Idaho, what? And I ran out to try and find her, because I remember reading in the National Geographic about the World's Fair in Spokane, and also that there was women firefighter plane, they flew planes helping firefighters in the Pacific Northwest. And it's like, that to me was where I wanted to go. And so I went out to find this person, and then we became friends through the winter. And then I ended up going to Priest River, Idaho, and stayed there for a while. And my mother was mortified. I had 3 goats and ducks, and I lived on the Priest River, no running water, no electricity. I went back to visit her. I hitchhiked up to Banff and took the train across Canada, and then took the bus from Montreal to Portland, Maine, and the bus up to visit her in Maine. And she was like, "You," and I had made this little brush quiver out of a heart of a cedar tree, and I loosely fabricated these brass ends on them, and I had these mucklocks. I mean, I was so out of place for New England, so out of place. And she was so distraught. She said, "Would you please stop in at the Portland School of Art when you go through Portland, Maine? Just check it out. Would you please?" So I made an appointment, and the bus was, laid over for a certain amount of time. So it just worked perfect. So I had an appointment, and they looked at my work. And this one professor I talked to, she said, "So would you like to come to school here?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah, that sounds good to me." I said, "Well, we started last week, and this was on Thursday. We started on Monday. So you have to be here on Monday if you want to come." Oh, okay. So I called my mom, and she was like, yes, yes, yes. So that was it. Boom. I came from like this. It wasn't a hovel. It wasn't a shack. It was insulated. It was, it had doors and windows, but my little cottage cabin in Idaho to Portland, Maine, and started art school. And then in the summers, I'd go back to Idaho and I'd drive tractor for wheel line. I'd change wheel line and drive the tractor, and um, until it got so bad with hay fever that I went back to northern Idaho and worked on a fire crew for Burlington. And then, oh, this one time it blew out, and we were on this clear cut. We set the fires. We were burning the Burlington Northern clear cuts. And I'd walk over a slash pile with a drip torch behind me. And then this particular fire just blew out. Everybody scattered everywhere. And I was walking through the forest and I could hear people, and they found this little pool of water because everybody's just trying to keep burning branches were falling all around us. And I was there for as long as I could stand, and I gotta get out of here. And I finally found where who worked for Burlington Northern were able to communicate with us because we were at it was a crew from a contractor. So I found where they had left the trucks, and there was a hose, and it was all best place I could think of to sleep, because everywhere else it was like if you stepped in a hole where there had been a root, you would post hole in this hot, so. And I hear this truck coming down, and this guy gets out, and he works for Burlington Northern, and he's a wildlife biologist. It's like, I thought it was. So we got married. He was getting his PhD in range science at Utah State University. And I went down and I started learning printmaking from my major professor, Marcia Smith. And he was amazing, but he was such a sweet man. And he allowed me my thesis should have been traditional printmaking, but he allowed me to do the form of printmaking that I told you about earlier, where I would sit on location and make these things that looked almost like a sepia colored photograph.
Right. So did you finish school in Portland before you went to Utah, or did you transfer?
I transferred, yeah, because I would be coming out west every summer, and it was like it was really hard to go back to New England. New England for me is, I think, because of my mother and how proper she was. And I mean, I really can, but I also like to not be too serious about things. Life is serious enough.
Right.
Yeah. So
you end up getting your master's at Utah State as well, in printmaking. So
yes. Yeah. And at that time, the marriage was falling apart. But he was going to divorce me for going to New York City to be a graduate intern in paper conservation. He was like, and other stuff, just relationship stuff.
Sure.
So when I came back to Utah, in the interim, I went back to see my mommy on the coast of Maine, and I cooked at an inn, the Blue Hill Inn in Blue Hill, Maine, all the while looking for places to, get a job, and I was just kind of listlessly sending out resumes for teaching, because I had been my major professor's graduate assistant, and I had the background of being at the Met and stuff like that. And okay, so cooking at this hotel, I got a job on a plantation in South Carolina. I was cooking for these people, and on one side I had my own wing in this little bedroom I had on the wing. There's a intercom on one side of me. She could call me anytime, day or night. The other side has a big portrait of her staring down at me. And so that didn't last too long, because I found a job in Missoula, Montana. I drove to Logan, Utah to get my stuff, and I grabbed my cat and drove the moving truck to Missoula, Montana, where that was my first professional job as a as the curator at the Missoula Museum of the Arts, which is now called Missoula Art Museum.
Wow. How was that experience?
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. I Missoula, I would go back anytime. And it was really hard to leave, but it was too small a town for me, my husband, and his girlfriend. Somebody had to leave, and it was me.
The town wasn't big enough for the three of you.
No. But in the interim, oh no, it's way too much stuff. We'd run out of time if I told you.
I want to back up just a second because you said something that I don't know anything about. So tell me about paper conservation. What was your job and what's that all about?
Well, they have a whole lab of, paper conservators at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And my job that summer was picking increations, which is fly shit, off of a collection of Abraham Walkowitz drawings, who was he was like around the time of Cezanne and Stieglitz Gallery. Anyway, around that time, and he was a mid-tier artist, but he was well known. He had some wonderful, very loose drawings that were watercolor kind of drawings, and so that was my job. But the great thing is when you first get there, we all would come in as a group. And they took us to all the different departments and saw all behind the scenes. It was fabulous. And then they had things for us to do, and we got to know each other and go out to lunch and stuff together, sit on the stairs. And then I learned where they would make their glue for the paper conservation lab in the winter, because the water coming from the Catskills and the reservoirs coming down, it would have less particulate matter in it. I mean, they were scientists and artists as well. But, I got that because I had been working at the museum in Utah, at Utah State University, and I had probably rematted from acid matte to conservation matte their entire collection of works of art on paper. Mm-hmm. So, and that was arduous, but it was like, that was my job. It had to do with paper and as a printmaker working with paper. So I wrote a pretty good letter saying why I would like to work at the Met, and that's the job they gave me. It wasn't the most, glamorous or fun or anything, but I was just really happy to be there, and it was so fun. And my sister lived across the park from there, so she had a 3-flight walk up, and I slept on this little couch and was like next to the sub, which was part of the kitchen. It was like really small. No wonder she can't stand me.
How old were you when you were doing this work?
My 30s.
Okay.
Well, you mean being at the Met?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You did a lot of traveling in those years between leaving home and this job at the Met.
Yeah, I did.
And the West always kind of holds a special place in your heart, it sounds like, for as many times as you came back east, you'd go back west.
Well, yeah, and when I started riding motorcycles, when I was teaching, I would do as much foreign travel as I could. And then it switched. I got involved with a guy that I rode on the back the first summer, and I was like, no, I need to ride my own because he was big, and I always trying to move to see things. And so we would ride together, and I 2 summers in a row, I signed up for the long distance riders thing, and you set your mileage at the beginning of the summer and at the end. And I was woman's long distance rider for BMW rider for South Dakota.
Wow.
Because 12,000 more miles. It's like everywhere. It was fun. It was so fun. I miss it a lot.
That's a lot of miles.
That is a lot of miles.
Yeah. There was rallies and things to do and people to see and hot springs to go to and hike in and just everywhere. I think the state of motorcycling kind of sucks now with all these, call them squid, stupid, quick, and dead. It's those little shits
You can
excuse me,
say shits.
Yeah,
the
you can
little
say it.
shits on crotch rockets. They're riding along like that, and they go like that, and you think, oh my God, that kid is gonna just be. They don't even care, and they're just rude. But yeah, so I'm kind of mixed whether I want to ride again.
Mm.
But it's in your blood. How could you
Yeah.
not?
Well, that's true. So was skiing, and then I screwed up my knee. Yeah, it is
So
in my.
how
Yeah.
long have you been riding?
I started riding in 2002. Yeah, 2002.
Wow.
Not that long. I haven't ridden since 2020. Although I bought an F bike, an F800 GT. It's just not the same because the bike I had, it was a honey. And at that time, I was fit. I was a beast. I loved it. I couldn't pick it up per se, but I was feeling, I mean, a lot younger and more confident. I think confidence is really key. If you
Right.
start doubting yourself, then
So what kind of BMW did you have?
which one?
What on the one that you lost in the fire? What kind of? Because you said it was a
R12.
BM.
Yeah, R1200R.
Okay.
Before that, I actually rode a Honda Hawk from Rapid City to Seattle and back. And at the end of that trip, that's where that I think I told the story about this, my one and only tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
There was a black dot on my hand. Where did that come from? And I didn't think of much about it at the time when I saw it. I was like, eh. And then after the fire, I went, that is when it happened. That was premonition of my life. There, right there. Because that is your lifeline and it's about to burst. Anyway, so that's where that hand of fate piece came from.
That's right. I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And then in the interior in the hand of fate are letters from my grandmother to me, hoping that I'll find the Lord. Jesus is coming. Also, this is the thing that blew my mind when I started reading these letters from my grandmother in a box in my studio that, and they were charred. The box itself was charred on the outside. And when I was making that piece, I was like, I got to put something in that hand. I can't just like paint it or whatever. I wanted something. And it's like, oh, collage. And I pulled out this box of letters. I was totally blown away because she says stuff like that. You remember, maybe you don't, you might be too young to remember James Watt, who was head of the interior, like 30
Oh,
years
yeah.
ago. And he
Okay.
wanted to sell off the national parks. My grandmother said, I hope they get that guy in tow someday. And why is it with, so farmers have grain they can't sell and dairymen, have milk that's rotting. Humans are so, they're ruining the earth for profit, and humans are so, stupid. She didn't use the word stupid. I can't even remember, but like, and I just read these letters this past summer.
Yeah. Yeah. So the piece is called Hand of Fate Ancestors, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you look, you can see right to the left of the base of the thumb is where there's a little flame. And then below that, kind of right at the base, like where the heel of your hand would be, is where it's from the quote about James Watt. It's a high resolution photo, so I don't know if you can see it from my website, but it's not all from my grandmother. There was something from my mom and my sister and my aunt, so it's all the women.
I love that. It's a great piece. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
How large of a piece is this?
It's like 30 by 40 inches. It's
Okay, so
large.
pretty large. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so different than anything I've ever made. And it was just like, if that's what it took fire to make that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, and the bracelet was inspired by a bracelet from she gave me. It was a gold bracelet. The actual one is a lot smaller than that. It's like half that width relative, or maybe third that width relative to the hand.
Talk about the significance of all these colors, these colorful dots that are all over the place in this
No,
particular piece.
I don't even really know. I just started enjoying myself. I was like looking at all kinds of things online, like, a folk art and flowers and, like Dr. Seuss and all kinds of things. I was just, being a sponge. But if you go to the other one, Hand of Fate, this one, that is like a lot of that is Hieronymus Bosch in the background, and the snake is, I mean, that was a little bit more studied, I'd say, in terms of what I was going to put on there. The first one was like just boots, seat of my pants. I really don't even know where some of that stuff came from. But this, like, when I was, the last international trip I took was to go to Spain. And yeah, I wanted to see Bosch, and I did, and I just love his work. And so there's a lot of references to Bosch, some of the little creatures, but the snake, I had to do something with that place that I cut out for the bracelet on the first one. So I mean, use the same exact pattern. And I was thinking, like, the snake, and the snake's flickering tongue is at where my tattoo is, black tattoo. And I'm into astrology, and I like to read tarot cards, things like that. So yeah.
I was going to ask you about all the signs in this.
And that's just a standard one that isn't specific to me. Different Mount of Venus and those kind of things. And then I just, for some reason, this is when these two are the ones I started using stippling in. And I just really enjoy it. It is so peaceful. It's so calming to just like do these stipples. And you can actually change and morph something by the density of the color that you put in one place. So you can make something that like looks ho-hum. You can go just put a few dots and you boing, or it can turn a corner optically, stuff like that.
Yeah, they're really nice. And at the exhibit, they're side by side and they just look cool together.
Yeah, they're beautiful. So same exact sizes. Yeah, 30 by 40.
Yeah. And I'm going to do a couple more. Yeah. And I think 32 by 45 or some that's close enough. So I'm going to do one that has like, I'm not sure, but I'm going to cut it into quadrants, or not, make it into quadrants of different phases of the moon or seasons or something. And the hand, the whole part of the palm is going to be like a moon. Thinking doing one with a red hand, and that I'm not sure how I'll do that, but I've got things that I want to work on.
It's really exquisite.
Yeah. There's another one that I really love too, and that's dark glass. Can you go to that one, Todd? So talk about that one. That's really an interesting story.
I'm glad you mentioned this, Wes.
Yeah, this is really cool piece.
So in my time at School of Mines, and well, actually, the last 3 years, I was artist in residence in the art and engineering. It was the first art and engineering residency that they had, and they asked me to do it because I guess because I helped them, like, write the grant and help them through the art jargon for some of the things. So anyway, I would frequent the hallways there, and whenever they had equipment that had interesting things, I would, pilfer stuff. I mean, it was just it was in the hallway to be thrown away.
Yeah.
They were no longer using it. So I started to get a collection of lenses, and they were just clear lenses, kind of like curved on both sides. They're really interesting. And one of those is actually a flat lens, and have no idea what they were for and what the machinery was, but they were going to be thrown out. And I just happened to pick them up, and they were in this cupboard that got destroyed. And when I looked at them, wow, these look like almost like biological samples or something. I put red and yellow paper behind them. They don't have that color on their own. And then I have this kind of a low wireless light there just to give it an eerie glow.
They're
And then
wonderful.
this is actually wood that was burned from the building, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I saw those from afar and they're just intriguing to look at. So I wanted to talk about that. That
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
just really interesting.
Now, this work that you have on display at the Dahl, is it all for sale or not for sale?
You know, people ask me, but well, since it has to go to Augustana, anybody that would want to buy it, but I don't even think I have a price list out. I would sell it, you bet, but I don't think anybody in Rapid City. I'm asking 4,000 for the Hand of Fate pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine anybody in Rapid City. The most that I've ever sold a piece of work for was 3,500, and that was to the state for a triptych, monotype triptych, and that's in the Capitol, somewhere in the Capitol. I should go see where they put it. But that was the Art and Buildings grant through the Arts Council. So, yeah, it probably doesn't even, that fund probably doesn't exist anymore, given what's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's neat to think that your piece is in the collection of the state capitol.
Yeah, I do too. It was pretty neat to be chosen. And I have a whole bunch of just pretty straightforward monotypes too. And if you bring up the page from this, Gardens would show some of that too. But yeah, I have work similar to this that's available that I would probably take down to Denver and see if there's anywhere that. So the top row, the triptych that is on the right hand, kind of in the middle, yeah, that's at the state capitol.
Okay. Moonlight in the Garden.
Do I even say that?
No, it doesn't say that, but
I should put that in the website.
Well, it does say Moonlight in the Garden. It's a triptych, monotype, 2018.
But it doesn't say collection of the state.
Oh, no, it does not.
Yeah, that's what I think. I should put that in there. You know, Greg Geiger, when I was doing that demo in Rapid City at Greg Geiger's gallery, he sold for me. It was a great gallery. And he tried really hard to have a more spare and contemporary local artists instead of like with tchotchkes and wrapping paper and cards and stuff. So, and he sold quite a bit of my stuff. I'm sad that he no longer is there, but
We were pretty disappointed to hear that gallery closed.
I know. It's sad to say that the Rapid City wasn't ready for it.
Yeah, Rapid City is an interesting town when it comes to the arts and, so it's a tough gig.
Let's look at some of your early work or some of your work that
That's the photographic stuff I was going to tell you about. And this actually was purchased by the state of Utah. It's in their collection.
Nice.
But it's kind of, and that's what I was trying to do today is add some more of these, the ones that are photographic. And that's the only one that I got on there. And then for some reason, thought I was loading the rest of them onto this portfolio that's other people's pixels. And then I went to look at it. It's like, apparently, instead of loading it into that, I was deleting them. And I know that I have them somewhere in the computer, but under stress, I couldn't.
This is a piece I want to talk about, the Sturgis Rider.
Yeah.
I love these mixed media pieces that you've been doing.
Thank you.
Talk a little bit about this.
Okay, so the background is part of it's like a rug. And I just thought it went well together with this image of this woman that I got open source from the internet. And I was doing a lot of stuff like that with women writers. And then I wanted to put it on top of a map of Sturgis. And so that's like an 1800, early 1900 map of Sturgis. And you can see like it's about on the right-hand side, there's a kind of a dark area. It's about 2/3 up on the right-hand side near the margin. And that's the density of line is where Sturgis is on the map. And then I had Kenny Putnam put it together so that it was printed onto he scanned map and he scanned her and he put 605 and 13 on it. I was going to submit this. There was a gallery somewhere south of Denver. I wish I could remember where it was. And they were doing art from different area codes. So 605, and I was going to submit that. And then they just disappeared. I don't know what happened to this gallery. I was kind of bummed because I thought that would have been cool. And each of them were to be screen printed, which would have been a really good medium for this. But as it is, this is an original. It's the monotype that I created, and then on top of that is the sheen. It's called sheen collé, which is where you on paper through the press on top of something, and sheen as in Chinese and collé as in glue, French for glue. So like collage is from based on that same thing. So it's specific to printmaking because you put it through the press. So and usually sheen collé is like the Japanese paper, even though sheen is Chinese. If you know, anyway, that's at the time that they brought up that they devised for artists that do printmaking and then add a piece of paper.
It's a really cool piece.
Yeah.
And I had that in the Artist of the Black Hills, but I had it in a large version because I had Kenny make me a big one and stretched it on canvas. This one is 24 by, yeah, this is the original one. You in the market? Anybody? Don't laugh. I'm serious.
So what are you asking for this piece?
I don't know.
Okay.
Name your price.
Name your price.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you don't want to open that door for Wes Brown.
That's true. I don't, it's so hard because I don't know how to market. I just don't know how to promote myself. I don't know what, even though I like to joke and have fun and everything, I'm really pretty shy. You wouldn't know it by talking to me here, but I feel comfortable. So
how do you go about putting prices on some of these, like some of those pieces you were talking about that are part of your current exhibit? You said were like $4,000.
Mm-hmm. Size and the amount of work that was put into it. So I have been selling my monotypes this size without the sheen collé for $900, but that was like $925. That was like, how long ago was that? That was 2018. So time, it's the market, even though it hasn't changed much in Rapid City. Let's hope that it changes. But now more people have less money, so who knows? And I really haven't, I've tried a couple of online classes, like, you want to know how to market your work? Well, just join us for a free webinar. And I'm like, oh, I need somebody to do it for me. I just want to work in my studio.
I think
a lot of artists.
Yeah. You think?
A lot of artists are that.
I think if we asked every single artist that we've had on this program, they would all say to a T, I'd rather just be making work. They really don't. I mean, some of them are business minded, but for the most part, I think if you're asking, an artist what they would like to be doing, they're surely not going to be raising their hand and say, yeah, I really would like to market my work. And, I don't know.
I know. I got to figure it out. But you know what? There isn't anywhere here.
Yeah.
After Greg, shut his place down. So that's why I think I'm thinking of taking a trip to Denver or Minneapolis for both.
I think you should do both because I think your stuff would sell in a larger market, where you get more eyes on it, you have more galleries to cull from. And I think for sure you'd get traction. Yeah, obviously Greg, who we've had on the program, was able to sell your work. So you just need to have a place and somebody that, that knows you and understands the work and can talk about it intelligently. I think you'll have sales.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just don't know what I would want to. I really don't know. I'd have to find a gallery that could help me figure it out. I don't want to make any assumptions. And, I hold on to them like they're my children.
Right.
It doesn't do me much good.
Yeah, I mean they are like your children, right? Like each one
Yeah.
is like your child. And I totally get that. I think you should come to Denver and check out some of the galleries here and make some appointments, talk to some gallerists. I think you'd get some traction for sure. And Colorado Springs. I think your stuff would do well in Colorado Springs from what
Oh,
from the galleries that we've talked to there.
hmm.
Um, I definitely think there'd be an interest. So yeah, you
Cool.
might just have to take a road trip, Deborah.
I have been itching for a road trip, trust me. I was actually going to go back to New England this fall, and then, everything. I don't want to be on the road anywhere. I don't, it's too crazy. But yes, and Denver is doable. I feel comfortable going to Denver, which sounds weird because I used to be a world traveler. Minneapolis, I have some friends there too.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've had the travel bug a good portion of your life.
Hmm.
That's kind of dissipated over time.
Well, no, it was just like the pandemic, and actually, so I was in Bimini when right before the pandemic, and I just needed to get home. There was something about it. I just thought, I got to get home. And I told the friends that I was with that I got to get home because there's this, and that's where I submitted that piece for the art in public places that is in the Capitol. And I said, I got to get home. I got to submit this because I know I was like trying to get my career going. Anyway, I do want to travel. Could we go back to one that I want to talk about from my
Yeah.
childhood?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know how much time we have left or
No,
not.
keep going. Yep. We're good.
Where would you like me to go?
One and three mothers.
Yep. I was going to request that one too, because the story is great. So,
And I just when Michael displayed it up at BH, he had the photo of Kossuth's chair, one and three chairs.
mhm.
So the story is, and you can read it there too, but I'll just tell you. So whenever I taught contemporary art to engineers, I would invariably, all of the books had this piece by Joseph Kossuth, one in three chairs. And it is a conceptual art piece. And when I was in Missoula, I remember like the Baudrillard came and did a big lecture and everything. And, people were just all like so excited. What do they call it? Oh, what is it called? The simulacrum? Where's the true meaning of something? And so that's what One of Three Chairs was about. Like he had a photo of a chair, the definition of a chair, and a real chair. And I, for the life of me, was like, okay, yeah, I get the joke. I mean, not that it was a joke, but it was just so much thought into this. So that was the epitome of how they thought about, where the reality of an object lies. And when I went into the building after it, the fire had, when they allowed me in, the the urn that you see there was the only thing on the top of this cupboard that was still standing and still whole. And it happened to have my mother's ashes in it. And I turned around, and the glass that is on the front of that picture of her was actually my inking slab that had been leaning up against the wall. So all of the ink just burned and slid down the front of that. And then the image is a photograph of a portrait of my mother that was painted by our neighbors across the street when I was growing up.
Mm.
So it's like it's all like this, just like this big ball of wax. And unless I explain it, people I don't think really get it or understand it. They might just also think the way I thought about one and three chairs too. I just had to make that statement. I don't know why.
I think visually it's really compelling.
Yeah. And I love this piece too, because, once again, kind of reminiscent to Joseph stuff, it's a photograph of your mom and then the urn with your mom in it. And then the definition of a mother
Yeah.
and, that whole thing. I mean, even if you didn't have Joseph's stuff,
Mhm.
the 1 and 3 chairs, I
Mhm.
mean, this totally makes sense. I totally get it. In fact, I think this is a better representation than 1 and 3 chairs, although, but I mean, the story behind it with your mom's ashes and it's surviving the fire, I thought that was just an interesting and poignant story. So I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to get this out somewhere. Nobody's want to buy it, but I would like to have it shown more.
Yeah. I think this would be a great piece for some university or like a museum that have it as a permanent display or part of their
Hmm.
permanent collection.
Hmm. Yeah, I contacted Utah State to see if they were interested in my show, and haven't. Well, we'll keep you in mind.
Yeah, yeah. I think in time it will. I think it's just a compelling piece.
Yeah.
I think it'll happen.
No, this whole body of work, Flower and Flame, I think is really spectacular. And I think you just need to get the right eyes on it. I could see it traveling all kinds of places.
Mhm.
I want to talk about this piece, Smolder. This is a
Yeah,
monotype.
yeah, yeah. So the buyer was in 2020, December 2020, and then in 21, I was an artist in residence at Zootown Arts Center in Missoula, and they had a big press. So this is still a diptych. You can kind of see, like in the center at the top, it's a little darker, and that I think is where the line is. So I've always wanted to work as big as I could. So I had to put two pieces together, and I did this that summer when I was in Missoula. And I still have other pieces from there that I need to like maybe do some more stipple on. Now that I'm on a stipple phase, I could just add it to all kinds. But yeah, that is just pretty much straightforward monotype.
It's really beautiful. It drew me in right when I started looking at all this work from this exhibition.
That's funny because it's like I have so much other stuff too. It's like, oh, should I even put that in there? That's okay.
No, I think it's stunning. It's really eye-catching.
Thank you.
Would you describe yourself as, being an intuitive artist?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the philosophy behind your work.
So I used to think that I wasn't really an artist because I couldn't paint a realistic portrait. I would actually get bored trying to do that. And so I'm an expressive, I guess I'm an expressive, intuitive, expressive. And well, I guess since the fire, I've become more spiritual and, talking to the dead kind of stuff. Not
Mhm.
really, but, leaning towards that way, thinking that there's a lot more in the world and happening around us that we're not even really aware of until something hits us upside the head. I mean, I don't really know how to talk philosophy about my own work.
What you just described right there, kind of hits the nail right on the head. Sometimes a tragedy or a life event can really put you or push you in a direction that you've never explored or experienced before.
Mm,
And it opens doors that maybe you wouldn't have opened on your own, but because of this particular catalyst, whatever that may be, it pushes you in a certain direction, right?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I just didn't realize. Is that what you're saying is like the philosophy behind?
Yeah, and then also like I read that you got to give yourself permission to create, that's one of kind of your tenets of how you approach your work.
Give yourself permission to fail because if you know, I think what I found is it was my attempt to create something decent out of a failure. I like, wait, no, that's not what I want. I tried this and just move things around, move paint around, and it didn't always have to be like first shot, you got it. I mean, like, that famous story about the Matisse that was three lines that formed a woman's face. And the person asked, well, why is that so expensive? It didn't take you that long. He said, it took my whole life,
Mhm.
basically. So
How has your work evolved, do you think, over the last 20 years?
Less realism and more joy, I think, because I was always trying so hard to like make something look like something.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't care. It's more expressive, whether it hits somebody as what I was thinking or what I had in mind. I don't know. It just doesn't even matter much anymore.
Right.
Enjoying
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Did you used to be kind of hung up on what other people would think about the work or what you were
Mhm.
creating at the time?
Yeah, yeah. I when I was in Maine at Portland School of Art, I mean, they weren't pushing you to be realistic, but they were pushing you with concepts. We had to take 2 years of 2D design and a year of 3D design. And that was put, it wasn't all like this, but like having dots that you filled the space with. And, it was very technical and then color theory and all this other stuff. So that was an amazing foundation for how I see now because I can apply it. When you're just pushing around like pieces of color aid paper or, you know, you're trying to make a square balanced by putting two different colors and I mean those are some of them like they took their foundation stuff right out of the Bauhaus and many of my professors were from RISD and so all that RISD philosophy and kind of way of looking at art and teaching art and making art came with them, which was pretty much from the Bauhaus.
So what was the difference between, let's say, your school in Portland and Utah State? How was that experience different?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that because so in Maine at PSA, it was tough. It was really tough. And I remember that they hired a psychologist to help students that couldn't draw the figure or something like that. I mean, I remember people crying and leaving the figure drawing class. They couldn't do it. And we had intense crits. I mean, these crits were everybody, somebody would say something about, you know, everyone's work, whether it was a lot or not, but they were honest and they were helpful and they were, they edified the person like this isn't working because of thus and such. So that's where it came from. And the first crit I had at Utah State University, where Mormons are very polite to each other. And out in a circle, we were doing a crit. And I would just speak up. There was like somebody's piece that I think it would have been, I didn't say it sucked. I didn't say it was awful. It was wrong or anything. I think things like, I think it's a little too busy in the upper right because it's taking your eye away from the center where you're trying to lead the eye. And I would say things that were substantive, not, criticizing them, but stuff that you would prefer somebody tell you. Have spinach in your teeth. As a friend, I'm telling you, don't go out without checking. So when it came for my piece to be talked about, they all were looking around at the ceiling. Nobody wanted to say a word. They couldn't believe, where did this bitch come from? And I wasn't bitchy. I was just like, I had been through we called it boot camp. 2 years at Portland School of Art was boot camp, and you could only choose one studio to have fun in. The first year, the second year, you could do two studios, but
Yeah, so like night and day, you were used to the hard critique and, people
yeah,
being, realistic about the work.
yeah.
And that was your approach in these classes. And yeah, they didn't know how to take that, I guess, huh?
And then I was lucky that my major professor was his name was Moishe Smith, and he he was so funny. He came up to my shoulder, and he was this wonderful Jewish man, big beard, and he'd say, "Students, this is the only place in the world I'm considered a Gentile." He was just hilarious. He was great, and he made these etchings of landscapes in Utah, and hidden in them would they be these nude women in the rocks and the trees and stuff. He was a hoot. He was a great guy.
Last year, you were awarded a fellowship, the South Dakota Arts Council Artist Fellowship. Talk about how that came about and what that did for you.
Wow, that's the only way that Flower and Flame came into being. I was pretty much, like sitting staring for a while, and I went, "Oh, a fellowship. I need money. If I'm going to do anything with this, I better get going." So I just kicked into gear. And this actually is my third fellowship. I got one, I can't even remember how long ago, but I had one in 2015. So 10 years ago. And you can only do them, you can't do them every year. You have to wait a year. So I figured 10 years, that's enough. And I just pled my case, what I wanted to do. And I'm very lucky. When I was at Utah State University, I started my museum work there. And the man that was the director was impeccable with his writing and his critiques. And he was art historian. And they actually used his grants as examples for how to write a grant. So he has given me a letter of reference every time I've ever asked him. He's like he's my saint. He's my saint. And his wife was on my graduate committee.
So it's a monetary award that allows you to concentrate.
Yeah, it was a godsend.
How much money did they award you?
$5,000.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you said this is your third time. So, but you've done other residencies and had other fellowships?
Residency is one thing, fellowship another thing. So I had the residency in Missoula. That wasn't monetary, but then a fellowship is where they give you money. And the last time it was when I had gone to, the focus of that one was work that I did inspired by Turkey and Greece.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I knew there was a difference between the two, but I also knew that you had done some residencies before. So you've been pretty fortunate to participate in both residencies and been awarded fellowships.
Yeah. Yes, very, very fortunate.
Moving forward, are you going to continue this body of work? Are you working on some other things in addition to
Yes, I am. It's actually, it's pretty exciting. I just came from meeting with Dale Lamphere and his wife Jane Murphy, and they are putting together the Lamphere Studio for the Arts that will be outside of Sturgis on his property. It's phenomenal, and he very much wants me to teach there. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to put together the information for teaching a monotype class, and I think we decided it would be November 8th. And so teaching up there, hopefully start teaching in my studio too. I mean, this summer, all I did was work on art and stare. I mean, seriously, I daydreamed a lot. Some of those pieces, like that Hand of Fate pieces, were just took a long time to do those, like all that detail.
I bet.
Talk about when you're an artist, you're painting, you're active, you're creating, but there's a percentage of time where you're just contemplating, like you're saying, you did a lot of thinking. So talk about just the contemplation part of being an artist. How has that impacted you, this ability to just kind of maybe step away and let your mind wander and your thoughts? And then how does that impact what you're currently working on?
It's necessary to be able to do that. And I think I've always been a dreamer. It's like, but also I can't sit still. Like I have this memory of going to church and my father would give me a pen and the program because I couldn't just sit there. But I think that as you dream up things and work through them, I mean, I write a lot. I fill up books about, I love words, words that are just really precise. I like to see something and then, a little haiku or whatever, or just like an idea. Oh my God, I got to do that. And don't let that get away. Put it down quick. And sketches. When I go out, I don't like to sit at bars too much. It gets kind of boring, especially because I don't drink that much anymore. Mm-hmm. So I like to sketch. So that thoughts, and I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And then I recently heard some interviews about artists or not writers, I'm sorry. And a lot of them, they spend a lot of time walking and I can't remember who it was, but they would talk to themselves like out loud. And he was always like afraid, like, oh, people are going to think I'm crazy, because he would just be like working things out, but he'd be the action of walking really helped with his creativity and his writing. So,
yeah. In fact, I have my little dog who was bothering me when we first started. I walk anywhere from, through the summer, anywhere from 2 to 8 miles a day. And she demands it. And so I'll go up to the Flume Trail and walk, or I just go to Robbinsdale and just on West Boulevard. It's necessary.
Yeah, communing with nature is always a good thing.
Definitely. I've always been inspired by nature.
Yeah.
I have this term. I'm not a term, but anyway, I have 1 foot on the boat, 1 foot on the dock when it comes to nature and culture. It's like I need them both. I get some of each, some of one, and then I go and, need to get out in the cathedral of trees or something.
Yeah.
Where do you, outside of travel, and obviously when you had your motorcycle riding, what else gives you inspiration?
Inspiration has been sparse of late. And the reason is I have been doom scrolling and I have got to stop. I'm so afraid and I'm kind of paralyzed. And I'm really glad that there's stuff that, I have things on reserve, boxes of stuff from the farm I want to make into something so I can fill a gallery. And that's an inspiration. That's a little poke in the rear to get me going. Although this sometimes, like, I can't remember when it was in the summer, I'm like, God, all I want to do is take a road trip and paint little paintings on the side of the road. That's all I want to
do. Maybe we need a group, because Rapid City's kind of I don't know, it seems like Hill City has a better art community, kind of lost some of its luster with the Warrior Gallery closing, but Rapid City has like this hole when it comes to culture, it seems like. Yeah. So maybe we need to get a group together of creatives and just to get together and inspire each other. So yeah, because I doom scroll.
A salon. There you go.
There you go.
When I first moved here, did you ever know any of the people from School of Mines at all, Les?
Not really, no. I mean, I may have known them, but not through the School of Mines.
There was a dean of students, and she also had a Zen Buddhist, collective of people that meditated in her house. But what she did was she started amongst her friends is a salon, and people would bring, it was potluck. And then after everybody got, had their wine or whatever, there was a bowl. And I can't remember if they chose a theme at the beginning and people put the thoughts on these pieces of paper, and I don't remember even the whole sequence, how they chose what, but somebody would pick something out and, that was the topic of conversation. And I thought, maybe I know what it was like. It was like politics was one, and you could write different things, or you could put, travel was another, and, just things that would, so it would be a communal way of talking instead of like little groups of people having their separate conversations. It was fun. It was really delicious. Lots of people try to outdo each other, and that's always the best potluck to go to.
That's right. That's right.
Wes, you got anything else this evening?
Oh man, no. This has been a lot of fun, Deborah. I really appreciate this.
Good. Yeah. It was really nice to spend time talking about your work and this exhibition that you have at the Dahl. And, kind of deep dive into your journey as an artist.
Yeah, it was really cathartic for me too, because, when you have all these thoughts trapped in your head, most people don't want to listen.
Well, that's what we're good at, is listening to words that are trapped in heads.
I'm totally jazzed. You guys are fabulous. And I'm sounds a little trite, but I'm honored that you would want to hear me that long. What have you been at it? 3 hours or?
Yeah, it's been a couple hours, but
yeah.
No, this has been great.
My last question for you, Deborah, before we let off tonight is I would ask you, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
There's a hot springs in Idaho, and I'd like to be there right now. It's in giant cedar trees, and probably the elk are bugling, and nobody else around. Full moon, nice stars, maybe a nice joint. In the old days, it would have been like a margarita, but But, that's pretty hedonistic. Perfect happiness would be, I can't say it because free speech is being outlawed. You know what I mean?
Well, it's still alive and well here on the Tenet podcast.
That's right.
So
You can say whatever
you want.
Yeah. Perfect happiness. I will think that through. And when I see you, when I come down, I'll tell you what I think perfect happiness is.
All right.
It could be, lobster.
Well, there you go. I'd be down with that too.
Melted butter.
There you
go. Deborah, thank you so much for spending time with us this evening. Really appreciate it. And I look forward, hopefully, seeing you in person in the near future, either when I'm up in South Dakota next time, or if you make your way down here for a little art reconnaissance, you definitely need to reach out, and we'll have to meet for coffee, and we'll talk
Sounds
galleries and art.
Good. Sounds good. Thank you, both of you. It was really delightful. I never thought that talking about myself for that long would be fun.
We get that all the time. Again, check out Deborah's work on her website, deborahmitchellartist.com, and follow Deborah on Instagram at Deborah Mitchell Artist. And if you live in the Rapid City area or happen to be visiting, check out Deborah's exhibition, Flower and Flame, at the Dahl Arts Center. Her exhibition runs through the 15th of November. As usual, I will have all this and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenet Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.
Sorry, my wife is texting me.
Left me hanging, dude.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.